We're 12 days away. Let me give you the state of play in the campaign. And listen, again, because I'm getting hate mail from some of you. My intention is not to scare you, worry you, bother you, or make you mad. It's to tell you, based on my conversations around the country with a large number of Republican strategists and with a large number of Republican strategists, a few Democratic strategists around, I want to kind of convey to you what their sense is on the ground. And right now, their consensus is we've got 12 days to go. It is becoming harder for Republicans to change some things around, and we will see how things stack up shortly. But Joe Biden has bumped back up a few tenths of a point in the Real Clear Politics polling average. Let me explain again why I support the polling averages and I don't support individual polls. Individual pollsters are bad. Quinnipiac, not a good pollster. It gets a lot of buzz. This year, there's wide agreement on the left and the right that Quinnipiac is off. Rasmussen, also not a good pollster. Rasmussen is a terrible pollster, and Rasmussen is one I've got people who yell at me all the time. Rasmussen tells you exactly what you want to hear. I have no use for those who tell you exactly what you want to hear. Because what you want to hear is not necessarily the truth, and I would much prefer to tell you the truth. And you can't really get the truth from individual polls. You get the truth from taking the polling average, and even then it's not really the truth. It's a sense of what's happening at this very moment on the ground. And on the ground right now at this moment in the battleground states, Joe Biden has a 4.2% lead in the battlegrounds. If you add 2 points to Donald Trump, well, then you've got a 2.2% lead for Joe Biden, and that's still good, but perhaps not good enough for Joe Biden. But here's the thing. If you look at the individual polls, for example, Florida has Joe Biden this morning in the polling average up 2.1%. You add 2 points to Donald Trump, you get a tied race. Same thing in North Carolina and Arizona. But the problem for the president is in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, the Joe Biden lead is up. If we go to, there's a great website, 270 to win. I want to do this for you in real time based on where we are. If you give the president Arizona and you give Joe Biden Pennsylvania, which is how the polling trends lie, Joe Biden is at 278, Donald Trump 260. You give Joe Biden Florida, he's at 307. I think the president wins Florida. The president wins Florida, then the president wins North Carolina. If the president loses North Carolina, Joe Biden is at 293. So if the president wins these states, he wins. If Joe Biden wins Pennsylvania, he wins. If Joe Biden loses Arizona but wins Pennsylvania, he wins. If Joe Biden loses Pennsylvania, Joe Biden loses and Donald Trump wins. Pennsylvania is probably the key swing state this year. Arizona right now looks like it may be trending back towards the Republicans. It had been trending towards Joe Biden. The downside here, however, is that Martha McSally looks like she's going to lose that seat. In fact, it looks like in the Senate, Susan Collins is gone, Cory Gardner is gone, Martha McSally is gone, and Tom Tillis is gone. That's a problem if Joe Biden wins, because that's 4 seats down. And you say, what about Doug Jones in Alabama? Well, he's going to lose. So that gives the Republicans a 3-seat loss. That gives you a 50-50 Senate. If Kamala Harris is vice president, she's the tiebreaker. The Democrats control the Senate. Joni Ernst looks like she's rehabilitated herself in Iowa a bit, so she may be able to hang on. It's going to be very, very close in the United States Senate as to which side goes one way or the other. That being said, the trend lines favor Joe Biden at this moment. There's no denying it. In fact, it looks like the Democrats are going to pick up 5 more seats in the United States House of Representatives. The worry and the danger and the thing that keeps the Republicans awake at night is not Donald Trump losing, believe it or not. The worry, the danger, the fear that keeps Republicans up at night is, do they lose state legislative races? Do they lose legislatures around the country in ways that impact redistricting for the next decade? There is fear in Texas. The Democrats only need 5 seats in the Texas House. There is fear in Georgia. They need 16, but it's doable. There is fear in a number of other states as well, but those are the 2 biggest. If the Democrats could pick up the House in Georgia and the House in Texas, they could throw a monkey wrench into Republican plans to redistrict and make some of these swing districts a little safer for them. That being said, I think the odds are actually very good that the Republicans maintain control of these state legislatures. And if Joe Biden wins, it ultimately there's a silver lining for the GOP. If Joe Biden wins the election and the Republicans are able to maintain, for example, the houses in state houses in Georgia and Texas, which I think is likely, they get to draw redistricting lines. They probably will see Brian Kemp cruise to re-election in 2022. In fact, I've had multiple Democratic strategists tell me their sense is that Stacey Abrams is not really helping Joe Biden in Georgia very much because she understands if Joe Biden wins the presidency, she's probably toast in 2022. If Joe Biden wins in 2020, Ron DeSantis cruises to re-election in Florida in 2022. If Joe Biden wins, Republicans do well in state legislative races around the country, and Republicans probably make gains in governor's mansions again. For example, Wisconsin probably flips back to the GOP if Joe Biden wins. If Donald Trump wins re-election, the trend lines are actually not good for Republicans in places like Florida and Georgia. So there's no such thing as permanence in politics. I realize many of you think that, the world is going to come to an end, the nation is going to go terribly far left if Joe Biden becomes president. No, the odds are not actually in that case, although none of us really want him to win. We would prefer Donald Trump, but you do need to be mindful of the down-ballot consequences of a presidential reelection versus a Joe Biden reelection. 2022, the dynamics change. Now, that being said, Joe Biden has come out today and is all but killing the idea of packing the Supreme Court. He realizes he's got a problem holding centrists at this point and not progressives. At this point, the data shows progressives are locking in for Donald Trump, but centrists are not making up their mind. There's actually a story. Let me find this for you. Someone actually just sent this to me. Here we go. Isaac Sabatai at the AJC. Georgians are streaming to the polls, mailboxes, and ballot drop-off locations to have their say in the presidential election. More than 1.9 million Georgians as of Tuesday had already voted, according to the data from the Secretary of State. That's 47% of the total vote of 2016 presidential contest, when about 4.1 million Georgians cast votes. About 56% of the early votes are white, 30% black, which matches fairly close to the breakdown of registered voters. Females have recorded 200,000 more votes than males, or roughly 55 to 43%. Most of the votes are concentrated in metro Atlanta, but every county has seen significant early voting. All but 12 of Georgia's 159 counties have recorded at least 1,000 early votes. Fulton leads the pack with more than 230,000 early votes. Now, this is significant for a number of reasons, and the reason it's significant for a number of reasons is because there is a massive question as to, are these new voters or are they old voters? Are they voters who have voted in the past, or are they new voters? That actually is a major relevant question, and the reason it's a major relevant question is because right now, if the election were decided based on early votes, we wouldn't be seeing a new voter wave. We would be seeing a wave of people who normally go on election day, but have decided because of the virus or other reasons to go on and get out there now, because of their excitement and the rest. And because of their excitement and everything else, these voters are going early. So you've got to be a little bit careful with the media coverage of early votes. The reason you got to be careful with the media coverage of early votes is because the media is obviously out to get the president. And this wave of early votes, no. Here's the thing. Yes, there's a presidential debate tonight, and no, the president cannot persuade people to change their vote once their vote is already cast in early voting, and you've got 40 million early votes already cast nationwide. But these are people who the debate wasn't going to persuade them anyway. They were already made up for or against the president. Their minds were already made up. That's why they voted early. I mean, the president could show up tonight and the angels could descend and reveal that it's actually Jesus, and the voters who hate him, they're not going to change their mind. The voters who like him, they're not going to change their mind. Independent voters, undecided voters who've been sitting on this, they may very well make up their mind. And they still haven't voted. That's why that matters. That's why you got to be careful here. Now, let's break this down by the states. Every state has seen a surge in early voting. Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan are seeing an early vote surge. The early vote surge is overwhelmingly Democrat, and the early vote surge of these Democrats are people who are going to vote anyway, and they were going to vote against the president anyway. So I have a hard time taking seriously the talking point that, oh, so many people have early voted that the president's not going to be able to change the outcome of the election with a great debate. He wasn't going to do it anyway with these people. That's a waste of a talking point. He wasn't going to change these people's minds anyway. But that's okay, because some of them are voting for him, some of them are voting against him. The real issue is when it comes forward to the undecided voters who are sitting on the fence trying to make up their mind, what does the president do in the debate tonight? And we will get into that. But you do need to understand, here is your state of play. We are 12 days away from this election, and right now it is still Joe Biden's race to lose. There is a story we'll get into later from Politico that essentially argues that had 2016 not happened like it happened, the coverage of the president's campaign, not the president's coverage is relentlessly negative, but the coverage of the president's campaign would be more negative than it is had 2016 not happened, and that's true. Because 2016 happened, a lot of people in the media, myself included, are more likely to give the president the benefit of the doubt to being able to proceed and break away from underlying polling. Had 2016 not happened, had there not been a global pandemic, this would be a normal presidential year, and if the polling were aligned like it is and it was a normal year, you'd say the president's toast. But you can't say that, because there is an undercount of the president's vote. We do know that for real. We do know there's a virus. The virus is weighing more heavily on people than the economy. If it was about the economy, the president would win. And we do know there are a lot of unknown variables out there. We know the unknown variables. We know, for example, the early vote. We know it is mostly Democrat. We know it is mostly against the president. We know a lot of people are still on the sidelines who haven't made up their mind. They tend to break for the other guy, not the incumbent, and yet there are some trend lines that suggest they're actually going to break for the incumbent this time. That helps the president, but we don't know how they're breaking right now. There are a lot of unknowns out there still 12 days from this election, but if we weren't in the middle of a global pandemic and 2016 hadn't happened like it happened, we would be in a situation to say the president's campaign is toast. That we aren't is actually a good sign for the president. There are trend lines that favor the president in Pennsylvania. If he wins Pennsylvania, he wins the race. There are trend lines that favor the president now in Arizona. There are trend lines that favor the president in Florida. There are trend lines that do not favor the president in North Carolina. There are trend lines that favor Joni Ernst now holding the Iowa Senate seat, which suggests that maybe they can hold the Senate, but it's too close to call. Democrats are increasingly confident they're going to pick it up. The Democrats absolutely are going to pick up seats in the House of Representatives. The question is what happens at the state legislative races. We do not know the answer to that question. That's another unknown. We know we don't know what the trend lines are in the state House races around the country that will shape state legislative redistricting. Lots of unknowns still. 12 days out. It's deeply maddening. And again, this is something you do need to pay attention to. And don't hate me for saying it. It's just the truth. Republicans and Democrats both agree on it behind the scenes. If 2016 hadn't happened like it happened, and we weren't having a global pandemic right now, everyone would be writing off the president's chances with 12 days left. But you can't do that. And that's to the president's advantage. We have 12 days left for the president of the United States to have an impact on persuading undecided voters to come his direction.